Case Study QB provided this video. This is trigger warning for you, Nick. If you haven't seen it, to kind of get you ready.
This is one of those people that I told you. This guy is. We do our propaganda ratings, and our propaganda.
Yeah, this is a hard one to watch.
This guy is definitely up there, but I don't show him because he's one of the people I have a very hard time sitting through. When I watch Morning Joe, and I got a segment for you guys on that. It's like watching a propaganda artwork, right? This guy is like unbelievably hard to sit through. Like just his overall smugness, and I don't find a lot of value, but they do what they do very well at the 5, and they're like one of the highest rated shows as well because they're pretty good at it. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, this guy he's one of the people I can't watch and I can't stomach. And then when he got the promotion, because he used to be the street guy. When he got the promotion, I was like, oh my god, it's gonna be several decades with this guy.
Yeah, big shout out anyway. I was big shout out to Case Study as well.
Absolutely. Let's go with the video.
Criminals hitting the jackpot in this liberal city. The Washington, D.C. Council moving to reduce the penalties for carjacking and other violent crimes after overriding a veto from progressive Mayor Muriel Bowser. She is furious.
I don't think it does anything for safety, which is the argument that I've made for many, many months and why I vetoed the legislation.
The new rules include reduced maximum sentences, the elimination of nearly all mandatory minimum sentences, and expanded rights to jury trials. Even the liberal Washington Post thinks it's a step too far. Quote, DC's crime bill could make the city more dangerous, Judge. When the Washington Post says you've gone too far, you've probably gone a little too far.
You know what's amazing about this, Jesse? I mean, this is
pretending. These are the dum-dums that pretend that the Washington Post is left wing. Like these are the people when I see these clips of Fox News all the time, they pretend that MSNBC is left wing. Even though they will run unapologetic propaganda on their shows. Washington Post runs propaganda almost every single day, but they still pretend they're like, if even the Washington Post calling you, you've gone too far. Like, no, this is what they always do. You guys are playing the game. You guys
Is it simply because the owner has been given that name? Is it because it's Jeff Bezos? Is that why it's been given it? I'm trying to, but from their point of view, not from reality.
Their point of view, anyone who's Democrat, anyone who's not Republican is a filthy leftist, hippie liberal, right? Anyone fucking left of John McCain is considered a cultural Marxist or whatever. But go ahead.
That's so funny. All right, here we go.
The mayor. This is one of the mayors who wrote on the street, Black Lives Matter. She named the street Black Lives Matter.
Black lives do matter.
Yeah, and yep. That's all I'm going to say about that. Now, listen.
Oh my God.
That was their racist moment. That was like, we can't let our racists out here.
That's why I have a hard time watching the 5 because they have constant cringe. They have constant cringe boomer dialogue. Jesus, it's so hard to sit through. But Fox News viewers, once again, this is literally the 5. It's literally one of the highest rated shows on TV. Like Tucker Carlson kills it, and then like the 5 is like it will be like top 3 or top 4.
Yeah.
And every time I watch it, they have the worst like dialogue with no soul. Just like it comes from people.
It's zingers. It just filled with zingers, like one-liners from movies. Yeah. That's all they just go back and forth. This guy on the far right, he's just there really just to provide comic relief. Like when they go to him, he literally tells jokes. Go ahead.
Have you seen this dude? He does like a Jon Stewart. He's like this right-wing Jon Stewart guy, and it's literally the most cringe shit I've ever seen in my life. Like he does these bits and then it will like zoom out to the audience every once in a while. It show a bunch of old boomer Southern white people, and they're like barely laughing at his Facebook dad jokes. It's so horrible, but apparently it works because this is one of the highest rated shows on cable. It shows why the American people have no discipline. They're class traders because they listen to this show. Full capitalists who are class loyal. But go ahead, CJ.
I mean, unless they're listening to it for comic relief, it's pretty sad.
And even that's sadder. Commentary. That's actually worse. Because Greg Gutfield, whatever his name is, this guy's comedy is so bad, so unbelievably bad. But go ahead, CJ.
All right.
One of the things about this is that the maximum penalty for someone who commits a violent felony with a gun, you know what the maximum penalty is? 4 years. That means I could shoot you with a gun 4 times. You'll never walk again. You'll maybe, shoot in the head.
Why does it have to be me, of all people?
Okay. Because you're asking the questions.
White lives matter.
All right. And the truth is,
thank you.
And the truth is, 4 years, they don't care. This is what the left does. They talk about taking guns away from law-abiding citizens, but when they catch a defendant with a gun, they immediately let him out on cashless bail, or they have these laws where they say, oh, you know what, even though they have a gun, we're not going to add any additional penalties for having a gun. And if you shoot someone with a gun and they don't die, 4 years, that's enough.
You think the press is going to...
But think about the concept. I'm thinking, like, if I'm not political and I'm just going face value, why would having a gun just simply having a gun, not killing anybody, but just simply having a gun, add charges if you have a Second Amendment right? How does that play? Exactly. You get what I'm saying? Like, how does that automatically up charges just simply have to be in a possession of a gun? I'm just thinking pontificating. All right, but let's continue.
Ask Muriel Bowser, hey, you know what? Shoot someone with a gun, wheelchair for the rest of his life, just 4 years.
Look,
seems like a good question.
Mayor Bowser when you look at these two entities, the council and her.
So if you don't know, this is actually a black guy, or their black guy.
No way.
He is very fair. Maybe he's of mixed heritage. But if you don't remember, I'm gonna wait for his name to pop on the screen. But he used to be I don't know if he still is a Democrat, but he was an elected Democrat. He used to appear on CNN and MSNBC. Then he got a contract with Fox to sell out. And he is literally playing the coon role. I'm going to let him talk. And then on the opposite side, we'll discuss, because we will have something to say about what he says here.
He's done the right thing here. Now, I would agree. I quarrel with parts of the law. Second, anybody that voted against this to override her should be recalled. We should be urging a recall vote. Unless these city council people can explain to me what is it that overriding her is going to do to enhance and uphold the public safety. If you can't answer that question, if I were living in Washington, D.C., I would move to recall them. I think the Washington Post has laid out well. I think the judge laid it out just right. And it might even be an effort to strengthen the law. I think it's a weak law. And for them to believe that this is somehow another disallowing people, or for that matter, unempowering people, you're empowering criminals. You're empowering murderers. You're empowering those who create the kind of harm and strife in communities that in many ways are most helpless. So I hope they recall them. If this story, the way we've read it and the way we've researched to date is correct, they should be recalled.
Now, what do they bring the cool on to say? The worst shit. What do they have Eric Adams as the mayor of DC for? To deploy the worst plans that they want to do with a black face. So he's playing the same role. He's here to go, yeah, I'm the nigga, and yeah, let's give him the book. Throw the book at him. He says literally, give him the worst punishment out of anybody at this table. But your thoughts, Nick?
Yeah, and this is the conversation of public safety that conservatives are deeply unserious about. That's the term that they use. But there's no conversation about what will prevent these kind of crimes from happening in the first place. It's about let's continue to pump up these prisons. And this is a common tactic that these deeply authoritarian prison industrial complex goons do. They take the worst examples. These laws are laws that we have, especially in blue cities. The reason why they're police states compared to everyone else is extremely strictly authoritarian, and they are put in place in order to protect the many innocent people that our criminal justice system goes after, and that's what they leave out. Our criminal justice system do not catch criminals. They do not solve crimes. They often put innocent people in prison, and that's what a lot of these protocols are for.
Like, and literally, I was gonna say, like, literally, if they solve crime and went after crooks, how many elected officials would be in prison? Like, if that was really your job for the corruption that goes off in plain sight. I mean, you got people that beat corruption charges that are Democrats. And what is his name? Mendez. And he's back in the fold. Just like, hey, what's up, guys? Oh, hell, that charge. Forget that. You know what I'm saying? Like, but anyway, let's listen to some more. Go ahead.
This is the argument they got grasped with, because they got to reconcile with the fact that these liberal mayors that had taken over LA, New York City, they have their same ideology for the most part. Lax on social programs, but focus on giant police budgets. Remember, Joe Biden took COVID relief money and gave it to the police. The NYPD is literally focusing on crapping down on the homeless while they were paying literally billions of dollars in overtime pay. So this is their strategy: of have giant police forces and then use that to reduce crime. But then they do a story like, "Oh my God, look at all these murders! Look at all these people that are shooting people," and they don't realize that doing this story, they're debunking their own law enforcement system. Because if your law enforcement system worked, you wouldn't be doing these stories about people being shot. Doesn't that show that your system is not working? That your system is not actually upholding public safety? Where, CJ, are they gang banging in the suburbs? Are suburb niggas gang banging? No, they're not.
Not at
So
all.
the obvious
Not at
answer
all.
to this is to put everyone at that quality of life, which everyone else figured out. Every other country figured this out, and also European country figured out, like, if you raise the standard of living while also having laws that protect people who may be prosecuted who are innocent, which is literally most of our prison. That's the conversation a lot of people not ready to have. Like, people are presented plea deals. This system is fucking rigged, and people are falsely prosecuted all the time. Excuse me, go ahead, CJ. I need a drink.
Yeah. All right. So let's listen to some little more. Then we'll.
These council members, they don't have to persuade why their ideas are going to make you safe. They just have to say things like equity, social.
I would like to say this the opposite. They don't have to say how funding the police will make you safe. They just say, give it more money. That's it. That's all they say. No data behind it to prove that.
Justice, and the conversation's over.
And that it's been unfair for so long that's the reason they'll do that. But one of the things you said, Harold, is that you would move to recall them, but also you would probably.
Harold is his name. Harold, Harold, Harold something. I forget his last name.
Probably move.
Yeah.
But the problem for a lot of people who live in this area and are going to be victims of crimes, they can't move.
Right.
That's not an option for them. And I think that it's stuff like this that shows why DC is never going to be a state, because they come up with crazy ideas like this. The Congress still oversees DC. They will probably have to step in here, and the calls for DC statehood will again go by the wayside.
Can Congress step in and do something? Oh, good. Greg, I mean, listen, if you're not going to behave, DC's never going to become a state.
Isn't it crazy that this is our nation's capital?
Yeah.
And it's basically it's a Somalia. I mean, it's just a crime-ridden mess.
It's funny he say it's a Somalia, which the United States has a hand in bringing it to the state that it's in. It is just bizarre.
Yeah, and that's the trick that these people do. And you guys see that I'm extremely critical of these blue states that ran by Democratic mayors in the Black Congressional Caucus. And this is what the red-blue game does, where you have the right wing that focus exclusively on that. But they ignore the fact that red states, like, you had a UN that looked into the red states. Like, he did a tour of Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, and he was like, here's a study right here. He's like, they are literally living in quote unquote third world conditions. So he said that these blue cities like Somalia, which may or may not be true, because I have no praise for how Democrats run their city, but they completely ignore. I'm going to share my screen real quick just so they can see the receipt.
Yeah, no, go ahead. Do.
It said UN shocked by the level of poverty in Alabama. We haven't seen this in the first world. And I also can speak to this because I live literally on the state line of Missouri, Kansas. I'm on the Kansas City, Missouri side. But right next to me is Kansas, where they had the libertarian experiment. And Kansas is a fucking hellhole. Like, it's just a joke. Like, it's night and day. Missouri is not anything special because we mostly ran by right-wingers as well. But Kansas had the libertarian takeover. You cross over, and it's literally, you had the good neighborhoods over the park, and everything else is shit. The buildings are shit. It looks like shit. Like, it's just a horrible looking country that we have here. That's why you have the new trend. I need to get Luna Oy back on. But you have a new trend.
I mean, what do capitalists think is going to happen? Like, I mean, we can even interject the previous segment where we talked about Davos. Like, is that what they're there to say? Look, this shit is completely falling apart. We need to do up this shit or something. I just don't understand. They're like, this is the thing about capitalism is like, there is no sensibility. There's not like, in order to sustain capitalism another 200 years, we got to give them health care. We got to do this. There's no like adjusting to the moment in order to self-preserve yourself. And that's what I don't understand about capitalists. But like in Marx, like Marx says, the last capitalist will sell us the rope to his, you know what I'm saying? I'm not going to say it for YouTube, but that'll be the last capitalist. And it seems like that's the case, like to their death, this is going to be the case. But his name in that segment was Harold Ford Jr. So you can look him up. He was a Democrat. I think he was a Democrat around the time Joe Scarborough with this comment. Joe Scarborough.
You see how the capitalist game worked? Like, this was a former Democrat who now cooning and repeating right-wing for Fox News. And while Joe Scarborough was the right-wing young Republican, like he was like the Matt Gaetz of the 90s. And then now he's like the MSNBC guy who repeats Democrat. Like, they don't really care about these differences between the
titles.
The only thing they care about is the loyalty to the class, the loyalty to the prison industrial complex.